Everybody, so I'm getting ready for my latest show. It's the Slave Narratives coming out this weekend, and I want you guys to check it out. And I'm just going over my lines right now, practicing my lines right now, so I can be off book. Fix the girls there. So I just want to record this because I think it's funny how actors, you all have different methods on how to get lines in, and really depending on what kind of show I'm in, I have different ways of doing it. So this is the way I'm doing this one. This is Slave Narratives. This is very dark and deep when you think about it. So sometimes I have to lighten it up. All right. I'm going to read the lines. I'm going to actually try to test myself in memorization right now. One of the slaves married a young gal, and they put her in a big house to work. One day, mistress jumped on her about something, and the girl hit her back. The gal, my bad. The gal hit her back. Whew. And the gal hit her back. And the gal hit her back. Mistress said she was going to have her put in the stock with the horses and beat her when he come home. When the gal went to the field and told her husband about it, he told her where to go and stay till he got there. That night, he took his supper to her. He carried her to a cave and hauled pine straw and put in there for her to sleep on. He fixed that cave up just like a house for her. Put a stove in there and run the pipe out through the ground into a swamp. Everybody always wonder how he fixed that pipe. Of course, they didn't cook on it tonight when nobody could see. He sealed that house with pine logs, made beds and tables out of pine poles, and they lived in this cave 7 years. During this time, they had 7 children, 3 children. Nobody was with her when these children was born, but her husband. He waited on her with each child. The children didn't wear no clothes except piece tied around their waist. Piece tied around their waist. They was just as hairy as wild people. And they was wild. When they came out that cave, they would run every time they see the possum. The 7 years that she lived in the cave, different folks helped keep them in food. Different folks helped keep them in food. Different folks helped keep them in food. Was you one of those different folks? I was. I like to think my character, Leah Garrett, was. So I'm going to rephrase that. Different folks keep them in food. Her husband would take it to a certain place, and she would go and get it. I want to change that. Her husband would take it to a certain place, and she would go get it. Her husband would take it to a certain place, and she would go and get it. People had passed over this cave ever so many times, but nobody knew these folks was living there. Our master didn't know where she was. And it was freedom for sure. She come out that cave for good. So I almost got it, really. Let's try that again, because it kind of forces you into memorization when you got to do a Zoom. Acting, I mean, the script can be right there and nobody knows, but you kind of need to look at the camera all the time. So I'm working on, just in case I don't got it all the way down. I got to look at the camera. And I like to zoom it in. So I'm going to try again. But we're going to go to a different character right now. Let's see. Who else should we do? Oopsies. Did I pass it up? I did. So now we're finna go to my other character on page 8. Because I forgot her name right now. I named this character Ellie Mae. Brown. Ellie Mae Brown. From Louisville, Mississippi. One of my kinfolk. Weddings. Didn't you know slaves didn't have no show enough weddings? If a slave man saw a girl to his liking, he just asked the owner if it was all right to take her. If the owner said yes, then the man and the girl settled down together and they behaved themselves. If the girl lived on one plantation and the man on another, well, that was luck for the girl's master because the children would belong to him. And so I got to get rid of some of these Venice mannerisms and turn more into my Ellie Mae. Ellie Mae, I'm going to name her because it was actually originally unnamed, so I'm naming her Ellie Mae. Ellie Mae Brown. They called her Mae Brown for sure. Now we're going to go to my other character. Her name is Susie Johnson. One of my favorites because she kind of sounds like me sometimes. Okay. Yes, I believe in lots of signs. For instance, the scripture is a sure sign of death. And the reason I know that is because my papa's death was foretold by now. Papa was took sick like this morning at 9 o'clock. And about 11 o'clock, a little scritch owl come and sat right on the corner of the roof, right above the head of Papa's bed. And screeched and screeched. By 2 o'clock that day, Papa was a corpse. No, that's wrong. And by 2 o'clock that day, Papa was a corpse. Papa was a corpse. Yeah, you just gonna stare at that motherfucker. Because that one gotta be creepier. So. That's a young laugh. Let's make it. These people are like 90, 100, things like that. Like 101, 102, really. So I have to make them a little bit older. Yes. Where you? Yes. I believe in lots of signs. Lots of signs. For instance, the scripture is a sure sign of death. And the reason I know that is because my papa's death was foretold. My papa's death was foretold by now. Papa was took sick. Papa was took sick like 9 o'clock this morning. And by 11 o'clock, 9, 11, 2. 2 o'clock, 9, 11, 2. Sick like at 9 o'clock, about 9 o'clock. And about 11 o'clock, a little screech owl come and sit right on the corner of the roof, right above the head of Papa's bed. And screeched. I'm sorry, I forgot the note was to make it faster, so let's make that faster. Come and sit right on that corner of the roof, right above the head of Papa's bed. And screeched. And by 2 o'clock that day, Papa was a corpse. Papa was a corpse. That's just an idea. So I read all 3 of those, and then I have to read a funeral thing. Oh shit. Weddings. Did you know slaves in no show enough had no weddings? In no show enough. Weddings. That's what she needs to do. She needs to kind of stutter a little bit on that one. Weddings? Bitch, what? That's the energy. Girl, what you saying? Child, please. Child. You know, when the older ladies give you that heart. Shut that shit up. It's like that. Weddings. Didn't you know slaves didn't know sure enough had no weddings? Didn't know sure enough had no weddings. Shit. Slaves didn't know sure had no. Look, I can't. It's a fucking tongue twister. Slaves didn't know sure enough had no weddings. Hold on. Sasha Shola. Slaves didn't know sure enough had no weddings. Slaves didn't know sure enough had no weddings. Or you can be like, slaves didn't know sure enough had no weddings. I like it that better. That way better. We're gonna try that tonight at rehearsal. See what they say. Didn't know sure enough had no weddings. If a slave man saw a girl to his liking and wanted her to make a home for him, he just asked her owner if it was okay to take her. If the owner said yes, then the man and the girl settle down and they behave themselves. If the girl lived on one plantation and the man lived on the other, well, that was luck for the girl's master. The girls. How is she gonna say girl? The other one say gal. Girl. The girl's master. Because the children belong to him. Yeah, I think I say girl. She say girl. Girl's master. If a man saw a girl to his liking and wanted her to make a home for him, or should it be wanted her to make a home? I see that sound too clear. Too clean and too modern. I'm going to say her. Wanted her to make a home for him. He just asked her owner if it was okay to take her. He just asked her owner. He just asked her owner because she was owned. She was cattle. You just asked for that horse. Can I have that horse? And if you can make money with that horse, then yeah, he gonna give you that horse. That's fucked up. I just, you know what I'm saying? But if a man saw a girl to his liking and wanted her to make a home for him, he just asked her owner if it was all right to take her. If the girl had children, the children would belong to him. That's basically what you're saying. Children. If the girl had children, then the children will belong to the master. If a man saw a girl, if a man saw a girl to his liking and wanted her to make a home for him, he just asked her owner. He just asked her owner if it was okay to take her. If the owner said yes, then that was luck. If the owner said yes, then the girl and the man settle down and they behave themselves. If the girl lived on one plantation and the man on another, well, that was luck for the girl's master. Because the children belong to him. Because the children will belong to him. Because the children will belong to him. The girl and the man. And they settle down, they behave themselves right over here. And if the girl lived on one plantation and the man on the other, well, that was luck for the girl's master. The girl's master. Girl. I think I'm gonna say girl. The girl is the master. Because the children will belong to him. The children belong to him. And then you just look at the camera and then they're going to go to the next character. That's when I press my button and I'm off. It's really like theater and film at the same time. Who knew that they would cross? I did when I was a little kid. I used to think that nice be like black actors are going to be able to play Latino and Latina Hispanic, and Hispanic actors are going to be able to play, well, the dark ones are going to be able to play black, and white people are going to finally get off that bullshit, racist ass bullshit. I mean, I had so many dreams. And I think in a lot of ways, things are happening like that. Anyway. Because I wasn't the only one that had those wishes and dreams and desires. Okay. So it's easy for me to memorize this actually, like I said, because it's like film and theater at the same time. Literally. So it's easier. This camera makes me look like extra wide. My teeth look super big. Fix this bra. I'm just checking my breast for breast cancer. So anyway, let's get back to character. Let's see. We're gonna go back to the big one because that's the one I really need help at. That's the one I do not have all the way down. One of the slaves married a young gal, and they put her in the big house to work. One day, mistress jumped on her about something. The mistress jumped on her about something. And the gal hit her back. Don't you know it? Woo! And the gal hit her back. Woo! Mistress said she was gonna have master put her in the stalk and beat her when she come and beat her. We're gonna buck them eyes. Beat her when she come home. When he come home. Mistress said she was gonna put her in the stalk with the horses and beat her when she come home. When the gal went out to the field and told her husband about it, he told her where to go and stay there till he got there. That night, he took his supper to her. He took his supper to her. He carried her to a cave and hauled pine straw and put it there for her to sleep on. It's like Shakespeare. It's a whole different dialect. Different terms for the same English language that I'm already speaking due to the colonizers. So anyway, side note, that night he took his supper to her. He carried her to a cave and hauled pine straw and put it there for her to sleep on. Okay, that's the one I want to work on. He carried her to a cave and hauled pine straw and put in there for her to sleep on. Put in there for her to sleep on. Yeah, that's how you say it. And put in there for her to sleep on. He fixed that cave up just like a house for her. He put a stove in there. A stove, child. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear me? He put a stove in there for her to cook on. He put a stove in there and run the pipe out through the ground into a swamp. Everybody always wondered how he fixed that pipe. How he fixed that pipe. Everybody always wondered how he fixed that pipe. Of course, they didn't cook on it till night. Tonight. When nobody could see the smoke. When nobody could see the smoke. Yeah, stretch that nobody. Because they be's dead for sure. When nobody could see the smoke. He sealed the house with pine logs. Made beds and tables out of pine poles. He sealed the house with pine logs and made the beds and tables out of pine poles. There we go. That's how you should say that one. He sealed the house with pine logs and made tables and beds. Tables and beds. Did you hear me? Tables and beds out of pine poles. And they lived in this cave 7 years. During this time, they had 3 children. Nobody was with her when these children was born but her husband. He waited on her with each child. They children didn't wear no clothes except piece tied around their waist. They was just as hairy as wild people. And they was wild. When they come out that cave, they run every time they see a possum. Every time they see the possum. Every time. There's 7 years she lived in the cave. Different folks help keep them in food too. Different folks help keep them in food. Her husband would take it to a certain place and she would go and get it. Her husband would take it to a certain place. Her husband would take it to a certain place and she would go and get it. People had passed over this cave ever so many times. What that mean? Not that often. But no, I think ever so many times. Ever so many times. A lot of times I think it's what she's saying, but nobody knew. Because if nobody passed over, it wouldn't be a big deal. People had passed over this cave ever so many times. People had passed over this cave ever so many times. But nobody knowed these folks was living there. Our master didn't know where she was. And it was freedom for she come out that cave for good. And it was freedom for she come out that cave for good. Shit, maybe it was me I'm talking about. Did the slaves ever get married? I'm going to put it to you like this. One of the slaves married a young gal. And they put her in a big house to work. One day, mistress jumped on her about something. They done scratched their head at that time like that. Mistress jumped on her about something. And the gal hit her back. Mistress said she was going to have master put her in the stalk with the horses and beat her when she come home. Let's imagine what that lady looked like. And when Garrett comes back, Blah 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 blah. Shit.